What's old is new again. Since 1968, the Cape Town Plaza has been around here, leased by the Barnstable Municipal Airport Commission. With me today, Katie Servis. Katie, it's going to be new again.
It is, and we're really excited about that opportunity. So like you said, we've had a ground lease for that property that the airport manages. That back in the 40s, the property was given to the airport by the military. It was given to the town as long as it stayed within airport management. So yes, since 1968, we've had a plaza there. The existing lease expires in 2024. We all know that the retail market has changed dramatically. So the town, the airport, town council, we all wanted to see what opportunity we had for that plaza and to really take a look at what developers could offer at that plaza and give it a new, fresh look.
Right, so there was a process that mostly all processes through municipalities go through, which is a request for proposal. You had two returned to you. Tell us just briefly how that process worked.
Sure. So the request for proposal was done through the Chief Procurement Office in the town of Barnstable. The Chief Procurement Officer selected a committee of 7 people to evaluate the proposals that were received. So we received a proposal from W&S Development and Wilder Corporation, or Wilder O'Connor Partners. So what happened is basically the proposals that were received were sent off to the 7-member evaluation committee that was made up of airport members, it was airport staff, commission members, town members, folks from the planning and development department, from legal, from the procurement department, as well as finance department. They were part of the evaluation team. And we all individually looked at the proposals. Then we met at the beginning of November and talked about what we liked, what we didn't like, what our thoughts were on each proposal. And then we invited both companies, both firms, to come down for formal interviews at the end of November. So really during that time, it gave us the opportunity to get to know what their thoughts were on the proposal, what their thoughts were for potential development of the site, and to ask questions that maybe weren't addressed in the proposals themselves. So it really gave us an idea and a flavor of what each company would offer. One of the things that I will say is both companies are very strong companies, and that made it somewhat difficult for the evaluation committee. I'm glad we had 2 proposals that came in, but it made it difficult for the evaluation committee because both have proven track records of development of parcels that they've done throughout Massachusetts or throughout the country, where they've renovated an existing shopping mall, or they started a new plaza from scratch that really looks at how retail is handled today in today's market. And so they both had very good approaches. They've both provided very good proposals on what could potentially happen at each site, where it's a mixed-use site. Both looked at identifying with a very much of a Cape Cod feel and a village feel. They both really looked at our community to say what are the needs here for the community, but also what are the needs for retail today. Retail is very different. Many people buy online. They do their shopping much differently than what we did in the 80s and the 90s. So their proposals looked at a mixed-use opportunity where they would have a mix of possibly restaurants and retail and small shop retail and local retail and open green space where you can have concerts on the green, or you could have some type of entertainment. So when mom, dad, and the kids come to the shopping plaza, somebody can be shopping and somebody else can be with the kids, and it's more of an experience. And they both identified with that. One of the biggest things that really put WS Development a little bit higher as we were evaluating them was the first thing that they came out and said was they wanted to work with Love Live Local. They really wanted to work with local partnerships, local entrepreneurs that really spoke to that community feel of the Cape and really spoke to our desires and need to work with our own community on the Cape and continue that work. So that really struck a chord with all of us. That was something that was very well received by the entire committee. The other piece of it is W&S Development really highlighted the fact that once they establish themselves in a particular development at a particular property, they hold on to it. It's a very family atmosphere for them to hold on to their development, to maintain their relationships with the community, and for the most part, most of their properties, they have maintained their holdings, and they've remained in control. So we really liked that aspect of it. The other piece of it was that the airport had an appraisal done of the property to see what is the value of that property, both if it were to be sold, which the airport would never do. We'd like to keep hold of our properties so that we have diversification of our revenue, so it's not all aviation centric. And so we asked the appraiser to look at, one, the sale of the property, what would it cost in today's dollars, for its existing use, and what would it cost from an annual lease, ground lease perspective. So when that data came back, it really revealed that WS's pricing package was more in alignment with that appraisal. And so in the end, the evaluation committee decided that that was the best use of the highest and best use of the facility, and the highest proposal and best use of the proposal. So it was a really, it was a great experience to go through and to be part of that team.
Right, and they've had some pretty high-profile developments over the years as well. Derby Shops is one of them. So
right.
That's and again, that open space. We're all concerned that the shopping experience where the mall is struggling with some things. So making that area now vibrant again is really an important piece as well to the town.
Correct, and I think that is part of the strategic plan for town councilors, is that they want to see some economic growth and smart growth. I think what that parcel will do for that corridor is really give it a fresh look, really liven it up, and kind of put us on the map for a place to go. And many people go to Derby Shops, and many people go to Mansfield Crossing, where WNS Development has developed those parcels. And if you go to Mansfield Crossing, you see that they have, LL Bean, and they have an opportunity for people to use the pond that's nearby. So there's activity, there's, exercise that's involved in that plaza. There's outdoor space, there's restaurants, there's shopping, so they kind of make their plazas, they're making it a very much of a living experience where they have woven in all sorts of entertainment as well as open, quiet space in walking space. And that's what they want to do here at the plaza.
It's a really changing landscape for retail, but the steps aren't complete yet. So there's things that are still, this has to go in front of town council now.
It does. So last night's step of the airport commission approving of the recommendation made by the chief procurement office is really, that was the first step to make sure that they were in agreement with the recommendation that was made. So that was great that unanimously they voted that WNS Development was the developer to choose for that site. The next step is to sign an agreement. So the agreement is really, because we have an existing lease right now that goes to 2024, the agreement allows the developer the opportunity to maintain that existing lease, but to give that developer time to start their conversations with the town for planning and for permitting and what it is that they need to start designing and developing that site. So it gives them ample time to do that. And then signing of the lease. Now, according to Mass General Law, the Airport Commission can sign leases that are 20 years in length, but anything beyond that has to go to Town Council for approval. This lease happens to be 49 years, so we will be going to Town Council asking for their approval of the 49-year lease.
Right. So this is really an investment for the airport as well as for the town.
It is. One of the things that we really need to look at from an airport standpoint is making sure that, aviation fluctuates. There were times when this airport had a number of different airlines coming through. We had a number of different passengers coming through, and the airport was thriving. We had the opportunity as an enterprise fund to really build up our reserves and to really put some money away for development that we knew was going to happen in the future. The aviation market has really fluctuated. It's gone down. There's pilot shortage, there's mechanic shortage, so the airlines themselves are feeling the tug of having that lack of employment and that lack of workforce, and it's affected how many operations we have at the airport. So the airport really needs to look at their revenue stream and say, well, what is it that we have within our portfolio that is not tied necessarily to aviation, so that when we do have these downturns, the airport is still self-sustaining. We're not using any money or funds that are coming off of the tax roll or coming off of the general fund of the town. So having this property where is a non-aviation use is ideal, because we maintain our management of the property, but we allow for a lease which is at fair market value, giving us the rental rate that we need to start building our reserves again.
That's fantastic.
It is, and it's great for the town, because I think the town really wants to see some change, and they want to see a modification to that site, because let's face it, through the years it has gotten a little bit old and drab, and it needs a facelift.
Right. It's a little tired.
It is
I
tired.
worked at Kmart in 1986.
Okay. And that's when it was thriving.
It kind of still looks the same.
Yeah.
So there's, and there's this whole push to try to use Chapter H to streamline some of the development out through 132 as well, through the commission. So, having those few years between the existing lease to the new lease will help this developer.
Right, and it'll give that opportunity. It gives a chance for both the town and the airport to just work through what type of development that's going to look at. Really, this step after the airport really signs the lease, it's up to the developer to work with the town to start looking at how they're going to develop that. Of course, the town will include us in the process, but it's really, it starts to become a town function in terms of development. As long as they're not putting a skyscraper up that's going to affect our airspace, as long as they're looking at it from, what they can do to make that a sound parcel for them, then the airport is fine with that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.